Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Megan Abroad. Today is going to be sort of a part 2 follow-up to the previous video I made, which is reacting to stereotypes about Germany. And today I'm going to do it about my home country, which is Canada. So now you get more of a native perspective about which stereotypes do I think are true, which are not true at all, and what are somewhere in the middle. Also, I want to say, where did I get this list from? Some are based on reactions that I've gotten in real life from other internationals, and some are based on some lists on the internet that I thought would be interesting. Alright, let's get started. So the first stereotype is that all Canadians are bilingual / the reaction I've often gotten, which is, you can speak French, right? No, I can't speak French. So this is mostly untrue because majority of our population is primarily English speaking. I mean, there is Quebec, which is our French speaking province, and then I think in Ontario they are educated pretty well to learn French, which makes sense because our government is in Ottawa in Ontario, and then because our federal government is in Ottawa, Ontario, and also because they share a border with Quebec. But the rest of Canada, like the prairies out to the west, don't really have a need to actually use French. And I will say that it is part of our education curriculum, just like probably English is in other parts of the world, but that doesn't mean it was taught well. So I mean, I took French, it was mandatory from around grade 5 upwards to I think grade 9 or 10, and sadly I cannot speak it. I did read a little bit, and when I was in Paris I could, I think, order at a bakery in French, so very basic. But yeah, it doesn't mean I'm bilingual by any means. It doesn't mean I can speak French at all. I think I hear this reaction the most from Europeans because they kind of think it's like Belgium, I guess, where, well, Belgium, they do speak French and Dutch, or Flemish. Do they call it Flemish? Yeah. And there's some other countries where this is the case, but I think depending on where you are in Canada, this might be true. But in my case and what I've seen, yeah, in the prairies, we don't speak French. Although it is the case that if you work in federal government, you might get promoted. If you learn French, you might have better career opportunities. And there's some industries where you need to have it. Generally the ones like flying in airlines, they need to be able to speak both languages. Anything that crosses borders, any industry that crosses borders and is regulated by the federal government, for example, also our product packaging has to be in English and French, then that is the case. But generally speaking, this is not the case, and even there's people in rural Quebec who don't speak English. So I think the most truly bilingual city would be Montreal, where everybody there will speak French and English perfectly, who was raised in Montreal, I mean. But that doesn't mean the signs are in English. So you might have a difficulty there. But anyway, that's the little explanation about the bilingual parts of Canada, so the English and French. The second one is that Canadians are friendly. I would say this is mostly true. However, I would consider it more of a very surface level friendliness, where it's something that you're going to encounter in your day-to-day if you come to Canada. If you go out to eat, if you are at a cafe or a bar or something, the waiters, the service people, and even other patrons, so other people wherever you're at, are probably gonna say, how's it going? Hope you have a great day. Just these kind of pleasantries and small talk, and it does come across as friendly, but I think this can be misperceived sometimes because it doesn't necessarily mean that they want to get to know you further or are interested in you as a person. It's just kind of something that we do. So I would say it's true, but the underlying feelings don't really matter. It's just something that we do with everybody. Okay, the next stereotype is that it is freezing cold in Canada all the time, all year round, everywhere. I have to laugh at this because this is absolutely not true. I would say, yes, it can get quite cold in certain parts of the country, like where I grew up in Alberta. The winters can even get down to -30 Celsius, but in the summertime it's really nice and beautiful because we are so northern. We get really long days and beautiful days in the summer. And I would say where I also live, which is southern Ontario, and where a huge portion of the population of Canada is, It's more southern, so it's bordering on the United States, and the weather there is quite mild, I find. Personally, I think it's even better than some parts of Northern Europe, so which makes sense geographically. So yeah, again, Canada is such a big country and we have a lot of different geographies within one country, so it doesn't really make sense to generalize an entire huge mass of land and say this is all freezing cold at one time. It's not true. Parts of Canada can be very cold, but yeah, it depends on where you're at basically. Then another stereotype is that we are obsessed with hockey, and I would have to say this is pretty accurate. I'm right now visiting my family and the NHL playoffs are going on, and the city where I'm in, where my parents live, which is Edmonton, their team ended up going to playoffs, and it is absolutely insane here. People at the games are not just at the games, but people watch the game everywhere, in bars and restaurants, in watch parties, at home. There are flags everywhere that say Edmonton Oilers on it, and generally there's a huge hype. But this is also not just during playoff season. Also, when I was growing up, a lot of boys and some girls would be in hockey leagues. Also, people do adult hockey leagues. So I would definitely say hockey is definitely a huge part of our culture. And I even say this as someone who doesn't watch a lot of sports, but you can definitely feel the energy and the love and the passion for hockey is definitely there. Okay, next stereotype is that we love Tim Hortons, or just about Tim Hortons is everywhere. Tim Hortons, Tim Hortons, Tim Hortons. Honestly, I think half of these stereotypes are perpetuated by How I Met Your Mother or South Park, but for the obsession with Tim Hortons, I would say this is, yeah, very true. We have a lot of locations of Tim Hortons. I would say this is probably one of the most popular fast food chains in Canada, if not the most. I think one thing though is that they're known for their coffee and their donuts. Personally, I think the coffee tastes like trash. It tastes like dirty dishwater. I would not go to Tim Hortons for coffee. I would probably go to McDonald's instead. But I do like some of the food items at Tim Hortons, and I might do a video reviewing food from Tim Hortons, so if you would be interested in that, let me know. But yeah, Tim Hortons pretty popular. The next stereotype is that we're very polite and we say sorry a lot. This is somewhat true. I think, first of all, yes, generally we have a culture of politeness. We say sorry even if it's not our fault. I heard that they passed a law where even if someone says sorry in the case of a car accident, it's not an admission of guilt, because it is so much part of our culture that we just say sorry. And even the politeness thing is so true. Like, for example, here it's a thing. When you ride the bus and you get off the bus, you say thank you to the bus driver. And I thought this was a thing everywhere until I started traveling and I realized it's not. This is not everywhere, but at least in Edmonton, where I spent a good portion of my life. And I recently rode the bus here because I'm visiting my family. I recently rode the bus here again. I was thinking, do they still do that? And yes, they do. On the flip side, I have also seen some of the rudest people I've ever met in my life also in Canada. And that can be in like fits of road rage, where people absolutely lose their minds and swear at you for something happening on the road. Also, when I worked in customer service, I worked as a cashier when I was a teenager. You can get some absolute Karen behavior from people who, I think it's just down to self-entitlement, and they absolutely freak out and are so rude when they don't get what they want. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess. So then I would rate this partly true, or true in some situations. Okay, another stereotype I've gotten is that aside from Toronto or Vancouver, we are mostly farmland, or that we live on farms or in rural areas. This one I gotta laugh at because literally we even have this stereotype within Canada. When I went to study, so I originally grew up in Alberta, and then when I was 18 I studied in Southern Ontario. I met a lot of people from Toronto who literally thought Edmonton was just a small speck in a piece of farmland, and they thought that, even one girl thought that we just listen to country music all the time. I was like, what? This is not true. We have many other cities that have over 1 million residents. The city I was born in, Calgary, and where my parents live now, Edmonton, both have well over 1 million residents. And what can you say? If you Google pictures of different cities, you'll see we have a full city skyline. We have anything like a normal bustling city would have. So yeah, this is not true. That being said, yes, these cities can be somewhat spread out, and there is a lot of rural land in between, but that's not to say that our only major cities are Toronto and Vancouver. Not the case. One fun stereotype is about our food, in that we eat maple syrup and poutine all the time. Yes, I love both of these. Maple syrup though is just a condiment. You can pretty much use it as a sweetener or put it on pancakes or waffles or whatever. So that's more of like a once a week, once every 2 weeks kind of thing. And then poutine, this is really more of a Quebec thing. It comes from Quebec basically. They have some great poutine there, definitely recommend. But I would say it's hard to find that. Okay, not harder, you can get it in a lot of fast food chains throughout Canada, but it won't be done well. You want it done well with the real authentic experience and with the cheese curds, which is very important. Probably you can find a couple places here and there outside of Quebec, but it's mainly a Quebec thing. And the last one is about, I guess, our speech and some of the things we say. I'm gonna combine this into one, that we say aboot instead of about, and that we say a lot. Okay, first one, you can listen to my voice. I don't think I've ever said aboot in my life. Yes, there is a Canadian accent that is slightly different from American, but we don't say aboot. What can I even say about this? Like, we just don't say it. We pronounce it differently, but it's not aboot, it's about. And then that we say a lot, yeah, this is true. I say a lot. I say it at the end of sentences, like when I'm confirming something. You got that from the story, eh? Yeah, I would say this is pretty common to use in Canada, and I love using it, to be honest. It's so much fun. Just finish every sentence with a. You probably will notice I will use it as well when I speak. That's it for all the stereotypes. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree with my assessment? Are there any stereotypes I might have missed? Hopefully this was entertaining for you all. And with that being said, let's wrap up the video. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye!